and opinions of the works, especially when it comes to series of books. So, and I'm sure, John, you probably have a word you want to say there, too.
Well, first of all, I'm blushing. That's number one. It's always odd to hear someone else, speak about the things that you create or write, but it's all great. I mean, they're all, overall the review's been very nice. When you start as a writer, I guess your first book, you have so many doubts, but one of the first positive review I got, and it was face-to-face, well, actually on a phone call, was my old high school English teacher called me, who I guess he found my name, however he found my name and number, but he called me and told me how much he liked the book, and I was so excited. As a matter of fact, he left a message, and before I got back to him, I was so nervous. Of all the people who are going to review my work, it's funny how my old high school English teacher, he's the one I was the most nervous about hearing from. But what was nice is that we struck up a friendship later in life, and, we have lunch occasionally, so it's all good.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. That's a nice full circle to come through. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you do have that respect for the teachers, and then to know that they've come back and they took a look at your work as an adult many years later, and that's just a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we have to move along. We have some dramatic readings that we have to get to. Unfortunately, in the essence of time here, we're not going to be able to do Mike Payne's, but we will do Lindsay Nuckel and John Nuckel. But we will take a commercial break, and then we will be right back for the dramatic reading. And then also, just to let everyone know, we have a wonderful surprise coming up and an announcement coming up as well. So stay tuned, and we'll be back.
Learning and good nutrition does not end when school lets out. The USDA's Summer Food Service Program helps provide nutritious meals to children in low-income areas so they're better fueled with healthy food to learn and grow. To learn more about sponsoring a feeding site in your community, go to www.summerfood.usda.gov.
Welcome back. You're listening to International Radio Tours, and today we are featuring Blind Trust. Now, what's really nice about what's getting ready to happen here is this is a very special reading. Lindsay Nuckel, who is John Nuckel's daughter, is studying to be an actress. And so she participated in this dramatic read as she did on one of the other programs before. But it's also very special because John gets to play a part. This is his very first acting role, and it is with his daughter, Lindsay. So, without further ado, let's take a listen.
Kent nudged Frank's arm and nodded over to the graveyard. There was a short, well-dressed guy walking toward them. He followed the path that led to the walkway adjacent to the church wall and nodded hello. As he did, Saul Landsman came out a side door and joined him. Landsman patted the man on the back, and they both strolled over to Kent and Frank. Landsman took charge.
Kat observed that Hirsch was a very handsome but short man. It had the effect of seeming like his head belonged on a bigger body. An ex-cop, Kat had a knack for sizing a person up fairly quickly. Hirsch moved gracefully, athletically. He had a confident air to him. She liked him for the moment, but then she hadn't heard him open his mouth.
Frank, as was their custom, looked over to Kat for a nod of approval or a disparaging smirk. From her look, he could tell she approved and shook. Hirsch made solid eye contact. Ms. Wells, I've heard great things about you. Ben Hirsch couldn't help but stare at the scar running down the side of Kat's face, like every person who met her for the first time. The scar was less visible at times, but the heat and sunlight made it obvious through her makeup.
It didn't bother Kat. She had become used to it these last 10 years. She was more interested in why Mr. Hirsch was there. Of all days, she was not in the mood to meet new people. She maintained her decorum but let him know she wasn't up for nonsense. To what do we owe the pleasure, Mr. Hirsch?
Saul Landsman interjected. Ben is helping me with the matter pertaining to Bill's estate. I'm sorry for the timing, but would either of you or Frank know anything about an account that Bill had with E.F. Hutton years ago? It was a blind trust, and I'm afraid I have no idea where it came from.
Kat shook her head. I don't know anything about his finances.
Saul turned to Frank. Anything? Frank thought for a second. Jesus, he thought. They had done so many deals together. Although he had been drinking quite a bit lately, he never lost his memory or genius with numbers. If there was something he had come across in the last 10 years, even briefly, he would remember. With this, he had nothing. Hutton? Didn't they go under a long time ago? Yeah. No, nothing. I'm sure of it. Saul knew that if Frank didn't know, Brogan never shared it with him. Saul didn't care much for Frank's personal habits, but knew he had a remarkable mind. Well, then I guess Ben here has some work to do. He turned to Hirsch. Sorry, Ben. He changed the subject. Frank, there is a matter of some urgency that I must discuss with you. Hirsch took his cue and started wandering out into the graveyard beside the church. Frank noticed that Kat shifted uncomfortably, and he knew immediately that she knew what Landsman was going to say. He knew it was coming eventually. Saul and Kat shared a look, and Saul went on. I've seen the will. Bill has left most of his money to his charities, family, and some to Kat and her husband. But he has left you with something more substantial. The mansion on the corner of 67th and 5th. It has been valued by the estate at over $35 million. It's yours to do with as you please, but Bill left a request. He would like you to take over his charitable pursuits. The mansion can be headquarters as well as your residence. He turned to Kat as if to ask for help. She lowered her head and left him hanging. There is a stipend set aside for the maintenance of the property. It was his wish for you to continue the work you and Kat have been doing together, but more importantly, to keep the residence and to devote most of your energies to his charitable interests. He felt that Kat is fitter right now to run the business, which leads me to his requirement for the transfer of the property to you. You have to fulfill one of his last wishes before this can take effect. You have to complete 3 months in a rehab facility before any of this can take place. He chose a place for you. It's a relatively short distance from here.
Frank had known this was coming eventually. He was a drunk, and he had people who depended on him, but more importantly, cared for him. He had let people down the last couple of months. His condition was rapidly deteriorating. Shoot, he was half drunk now. He was offered for a second then relieved. Like with his first trip to rehab many years before. He was ready. He was tired. Lying and drinking had worn him down.
He wanted to say thank you, but instead he turned to Kat and said, Kat. She walked over and put her arms around him. Frank thought that they had known each other for over 10 years, and this was the first time she had ever hugged him. Neither of them were much for that type of thing. Instantly, he was overwhelmed with everything. The emotions came in a rush, and Frank couldn't hold back. Tears started flowing. and he silently cried, trying to stifle himself to keep it from Kat. Brogan was gone, but still picking him up. He closed his eyes and said, "That Brogan," into Kat's shoulder. The phrase broke the tension, and Kat laughed. Saul didn't get it, but if you work with Brogan, as Frank and Kat had for years, that Brogan were words that were muttered daily, to a point of it becoming an inside joke. Kat put her hand on his shoulder.
Go now, Frank. It's all set up. Willie and I will come see you in a week or so.
Now?
Yes, now. No thinking about it. Agent Howell is waiting at the car in front of the church. Just go. Everything you may need will be shipped to you.
What about you with the firm? What's going to happen?
I'll be fine. I have Willie. Everything has been arranged. Clients think you are on an assignment out of the country. The case log is thin anyway. Nothing I can't close up in a week or two. I could use some time off also. Besides, you look like crap.
Well, that was a very nice reading with Lindsay Nuckel and John Nuckel. Thank you, John, for doing that. It really portrayed a really good part of the story with Frank and Kat. Really enjoyed that.
It's good to get that New York accent in there, huh?
Absolutely. Well, we only have just a few minutes left, and we really want to do a couple of things here. I know you have some really good work that's coming up on the. I know the garden is going to be coming up, and you mentioned to me that you have a short story that's coming up as well. You want to just spend about 30 seconds and tell us about that?
30 seconds, yes. It's called The Victory Grill. And it takes place on the west side of Manhattan, and it is a transitional story. That's what I will say, about a transition in life for the owner of this grill.
Well, you know, one of the things that I really like about your work, John, is that you can move in between different genres, which is just really shows the talent, your writing talent and ability. So I also, I know I read the tweet that you had, how you're going to take 117 years and tie it into a present-day situation. Can you give us just a quick little comment on that?
Yes,
how do you
very
intend to
quickly,
do that?
I will say, I tweeted that, can I write a sequel that takes place 117 years ago? And the answer is yes, because it is 117 years ago, an organization was founded that the character Brogan, who's in all three of the Rector ST Series books, was a member of that organization that began long ago. So you will see in the next book that organization that Brogan was one of the principal people in, how that has been passed down to Frank, and how that will be part of getting more away from financial thrillers and more into maybe action-adventure more. So.
Very nice. Well, we're looking forward to all the creative writing that you have coming up. So now, as we promised everyone, here we are at the end of the show, and John has something very special he wants to tell everyone about. Go ahead, John.
Yes, I have a special offer. I would like people to tweet at John Nuckel, take me to hashtag Rector ST Series. That's RECTOR, capital ST, SERIS, for an entry to win a copy of the VIG. So that is tweet me at John Nuckel, take me to hashtag Rector ST Series for an entry to win a copy of the VIG. And if you pin the tweet and share it with your friends, there is an opportunity to get the entire series in